So we will continue the yesterday's lecture, which left as the types of the livestock and their features. Of course, a very simple topic is concerned, but we'll learn certain basic things. Then ruminants versus monogastric animals, we'll learn a little, especially. Hello, 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 hello. So animals are classified mainly into two type of these animals, especially based on the digestive organ type. So we know that the ruminants and non-ruminants are the important livestock species in which we are classifying them into based on the digestive system. So this classification mainly concerned about the digestive system. Ruminants have four stomach, FOUR. Especially the number one is the rumen, number two is the reticulum, omasum, and apomasum. So the ruminants are the one which masticate or ruminate in nature. So the examples of such animals are uh, the cattle, buffalo, and the sheep, goat, etc. So apart from this one, the pseudo-ruminants are also the camel, llama, and alpaca. All these are the pseudo-ruminants. Apart from this one, the ruminants, especially the wild ruminants, are there, but they are not domesticated. Where the non-ruminants, example pig, have got only one stomach, that is the single stomach animals, and these species are described as the single stomach or mono type of the stomach animals. Then the examples are the swine and the poultry are the two important productive animals. So the characteristics of the ruminants is unique digestive system that allows to better use the energy from the totally waste fibers and convert them into one of the very good proteinaceous sources like the milk or the meat. And herbivores can always digest the fiber and get the energy from fibrous plant, and they are always having the microbial digestive system, as you know it very well. Then the monogastric animals do have a very similar type of the digestive system to that of the human beings, and they ferment foodstuffs and provide precursors of the energy for the animal use. So, by better understanding how the digestive system of the ruminant works, livestock producers or the doctors can better understand how to care for them and feed the ruminant animals which have got a very big fermentation vat. Rumen is a very big fermentation vat. Then there are once again among the ruminants, we are going to classify them into the small ruminant and also the large ruminants. The sheep and goat are contributing to the small ruminants, whereas the cattle, buffalo, etc., are contributing to the large ruminants. So the category is very specific, and apart from this one, we have also got the aquatic and terrestrial animals. Of course, we are not dealing with these creatures, but these creatures are also served as the food to the human beings. So they can be divided into territory or the habitat. So two popular locations where in which the animals are found, and these are aquatic and terrestrial animals. The name aqua means always it is water, thus the name indicates watery area, and the term terrestrial indicates an area of the land. Terrestrial means it is an area of the land. So the terrestrial animals are the one which located on land, and they found their feed mainly from the plant sources which is found on the ground. For example, the cattle, especially the cattle, then equines, camel, and almost all the animals. So the thing is, they can consume the grass or any other herb which is always found on the surface of the earth. So, apart from this one, there are aquatic animals which are also called as the creatures that live on the water, maybe the sea water or sweet water animals. Then they are called as the marine animals also. Then they are found to feed there from the plants or also the smaller fish, etc. Then they are always found in the water. The edible animal in water is the fish. And another thing, and it's a big industry, of course, in India, that the poultry comes from the Latin word pullus, means a young fowl or young animal or a chicken. So these are all synonyms. Whereas the poultry is a very broad term, it includes all domestic birds kept for the purpose of human food production for the meat and eggs. Both are exploited by the human beings, especially the chicken, then turkeys, ducks, geese, then ostrich, guinea fowl, doves, pigeons, and many more birds are used as the human foods. And few of the other birds are the wild birds are not supposed to be consumed as human foods. Then, in case of developed nations, the term poultry refers to species of the birds that are reared for egg and meat production only, the poultry. So, in Ethiopia, India, and other countries where poultry is synonymous only to chicken rearing only, and most of the birds are known as the other birds are known as the wild birds, and apart from these birds are wild birds. In developed nations, chickens are reared for egg or meat productions only, not for gaming purpose. So we know that everyone know that there are two types of the chicken breeds evolved through the intensive breeding and selections. The number one layers. So they are specifically developed for the egg production only, whereas the broilers or the chicken are kept for meat production or the fast weight gain due to the production of the good muscle quality or the meat. Then poultry systems is the way in which the animals production system are kept and managed for specific purpose. So poultry production is broadly categorized as its extensive productive production systems in which the large scale production of the poultry is being done, and the second one is the backyard or extensive. Then the second one is the semi intensive production system. Third one is the intensive production system, extensive production system, semi-intensive, and intensive production system is always there. What is the extensive production system means? Ideal way of keeping a limited number of hens from which it is intended to produce table eggs for the house. That's all. Then the fertile eggs for hatching. Number two, table birds for even for cash income like immediately selling these birds and getting the money for the day-to-day activities of households. And this is two types. One is the free range system, then another one is the backyard extensive system. Then free range means under the free range, birds are not confined to a single cage or any confined area or room, etc. But they can scavenge the food over a wide area. So they are called as the scavenging areas. And shelter may be provided to these birds, especially for uh, these may or may not be used. Shelter may be provided. In the night they require the shelter, but in the day they are going for grazing. And the birds may roost outside or congregate outside, usually in trees and nests in bush. That's the in this free ranging system. The flock contains the birds of different species and the varying age groups also. So the backyard extensive type of the system of the poultry is rearing the chicks on small scale, a very small number like 5 to 20 birds for the own house use, and it is just for a family use only, not for the commercial use. To some extent, the generation of a little cash by selling the egg or the chicken. And the poultry are housed in night but allowed free range during the daytime. In India, most of these things are called as the backyard poultry, and everyone knows that in the night they are protected from the predators and they are captured and kept in a captive area. So they are usually fed with a handful of grain when they come to the home in the morning and evening to supplement the scavenging. So this is the free ranging, whereas they go for the grazing very freely. That's number one thing. Whereas the system also contains the advantages and disadvantages, and the advantages are reduced cost of feeding as they scavenge their feed, access to green feed, white ants and their insects. So yeah, everyone know that whenever the birds go for scavenging, they may also feed some green plants. Then also the ants which are craveling on the mud, etc. Then also certain worms like earthworms, etc. And also few of the insects are the best foods or the lunch or the breakfast, whatever it may be. So this involves low capital investment and cost of housing and eliminates cannibalism among the birds. If the birds are caged together, then they may have the cannibalism or pecking the habit. Cannibalism means eating its own species. That's called as the scavenging. Then, apart from this one, there are a lot of disadvantages of this system also. Difficulties in controlling the bird. There is no control over the system, especially in this particular, especially during the disease outbreak, breeding, and proper feeding. It is not there. So this is one of the thing. Whereas the semi-intensive system is a keeping poultry in confined and run free over the field. So they are kept as confined animals. Then it's a system in which poultry have a good type of laying house. Good type of the laying house is always present, and what we can see is they can shut when the weather is bad, etc. Then there whenever they rain like that, so it is having its own advantage, and there is no loss of the birds due to the predatory animals or the predatory birds. So these are combination of the extensive and intensive systems where birds are confined to certain area with access to shelter. So this is commonly found in urban and peri-urban as well as the rural situations most of the time. And in the run system, the birds are confined in an enclosed area outside during the day and housed at night. So this system is very safe for the birds and there is no lot of loss of the bird. Whereas the feed and water are available in the house to avoid the wastage by rain. wind and wild animals. So the flock Indian system ranges from, depending upon the number, 50 to maximum 200, and lot of techniques and expertise can be applied, and varieties of the methods have come for the animals which need to be caged, and provision of the water, medicine, labor, then also sometimes the cleaning up of all these matters, etc., are involved in this type of rearing the system. And another thing, world called as the poultry run. So what's a poultry run? It's a piece of grassland and enclosed by a fence of wire netting or the chicken proof barriers. Birds wander in run during the daytime, especially during the daytime, and are shut at night in a house located within the disclosure. And food and water are available in, especially inside the house itself, and they require, especially it's one of the advantages are a very less land than that of the free ranging system. Very low land is required, and only the additional cost is the labor and also the feed cost. Then disadvantages of this is, and there is a possibility of lot of parasitemia and disease germs in the pasture, and this requires considerable amount of the fencing and more elaborate house than free ranging system. So one need to protect the birds from the going out, etc., then there is a fencing is required, and more investment is always required than that of the free range system. And generally, semi-intensive or restricted range system is adopted where there is limited amount of the free space is there, and the birds are allowed to walk during the day and kept in the house at the night. And the advantage of this system is birds are under strict control. Birds are under strict control means they are prevented from crossing with inferior crops, then the predators, theft and accidents. So the birds are usually in the semi-intensive system. Whenever there is a threat, etc., they come running and get the shelter in an area where the sheltering and the protection is provided by the owner. And apart from this one, there is a chance that crossing with the inferior cow, and the next generation will be also be inferior, and sometimes the birds cannot be the predators as there is a protection from the owner, and many times the birds will be theft and accidents also. When the birds are crossing the roads, etc., there will be an accident. Whereas the semi-intensive system has got certain disadvantages, but it has got high cost of production, number one, and housing is a very huge capital investment is there, and require large space of the land since both night and house especially, and is run is required during the day. Run means the birds need to be allowed for walking, etc. Then this is the semi-intensive or restricted range system, then involves an area of land enclosed by the fence, especially the fence. Then the area is enclosed in a fence, then always the hens are protected by such cheaply available materials, etc., which is locally available in the system of rearing. And usually, wherever it's possible, we can have rearing. Whereas the third one is the intensive system, wherein which it is used in the industrial scale. Whereas the birds have no access to land outside throughout their lifespan, they will live in a restricted area which have no access to the land or outside. So this is usually adopted where land is very very limited and also expensive, like the cities or the semi-urban areas. and these are being issued by the medium to large scale commercial enterprises. Large scale commercial enterprises are there. Whereas the another thing is the capital outlay is also very high in this type of the system. Capital means the initial investment is very high, especially in this type of the system. Birds are totally dependent on their owners for all their requirements, starting from feeding, management, then also the housing, then the watering, the vaccination, everything. They are totally dependent on the owner, whereas the production cost is very very high. Even then, the this type of the system is being adopted as it is commercially viable when the number of the birds rear is very very high. Then apart from this one, the maximum number of poultry on minimum ground place, that's the advantages of this thing. And especially the tire systems, two tire, three tires, etc. This can be made and needs artificial incubation, like the requirement of the nutrition, then also the production of uh, the sometimes there is a disease spread is being controlled. So in this system, there are three types of the system. Number one, as you know, the deep litter system. Then another one is the slatted floor, or the third one, very commonly employed, is the battery or cage type of the system is there. But as all these have got their own advantages and disadvantages, and everything has got its own advantages, and sometimes the disadvantages also there. Then advantages of intensive production system is the birds are under totally restrict control. The diet, the water, the medicines. Then also they are the disease can be easily controlled or prevented by this from crossing with inferior crops. Also, there is no crossing, etc. Here, the birds are purchased on the day zero or day one. Then they will be reared in the cage system. So they will be protected very well from the predators and also theft and accident. They cannot cross the roads or met with an accidents also. Whereas the disadvantages of this intensive production system is very high cost of production and housing and capital. So, disadvantages of intensive system means you have to write that high cost of the production system and require the very large space or the land. Very large space or the land is very much required. Then another animal which is very commonly reared for the only for the meat purpose, and which is a very good converter of the food is the pigs or the swine, what we say. So it is a very strong commercialized industry throughout the world, especially, and raising the pig and keeping the pig products and satisfy the demand of the human needs for the swine productions. And they are the very good meat producers, and have pigs have got a very wide scope for uh, being reared for the human food. So pigs have a long history of providing food and fat, especially it's called as the lard or the fat. Therefore, the advent of the grain-based cooking oils rendered pig fat, that's called as the lard, L-A-R-D, was commonly used to add flavor and calories to the food. Then pigs are kept on farms for their meat purpose only. There is no other purpose like the cattle, which are always sometimes reared for the milk and meat, and sometimes only for the meat purpose. Whereas the pigs are only reared for their meat purpose. So meat from the pig is, of course, it is cheap, safe, healthy, and nutritious. Very nutritious. The pork is the culinary name for the meat from domestic pig. So it is called as the Sus scrofa domesticus. So it is the meat from the pigs is called as the pork. So it is the most commonly consumed meat worldwide, with an evidence of pig husbandry dating back to 5000 BC, means about 7,000 years back. The pig rearing has come into the earth. And the pork is eaten very fresh, then cooked and preserved also. Then curing extends the shelf life of the pork products. Curing means, especially dressing of the pigs, will always make them to have the proper, what you call as the shelf life. Always it is preserved, and it is useful for the people to preserve them for a long time, and the shelf life also increases. Swine common name applied to any animal of the pig family. Pig, or it is the pig family. Swine is a broad term. Whereas the pig family, a pig is a broad term, whereas the small swine is the small term, including both domesticated and wild species. The family Suidae, Suida, and they have certain characteristic with four short-legged mammals. The pigs have got stout bodies. They have got very stout bodies. And then the skin is thin, and then bristle hairs are present on the entire body, and long snouts with tusks and short curled tails are present, especially in the pig. And swines are artiodactyl ungulates, a hoofed with even number of the toes are present, just like the cattle. Whereas the economic importance of the swine production may be in India or other country, it is considered to be the economic animal, especially for the very high capacity to convert the unproductive or non-nutritious food into a very good nutritious product. So they provide food and consider as a source of the food security that likely to tool to fighting poverty in the tropical countries like India, then also the sometimes the African countries, they always rear the pigs for the tropical economies. And for the production of synthetic leather products, they are red, and the swine skin is very very soft with bristle used for manufacturing the leather, and very soft materials are always prepared. Then medical surgery purpose also, the pigs are used, and synthetic sports material will be always produced by the pigs. This is the advantage, and they are very good source of the manure. The, of course, the cattle, sheep, goat, pig all serve as the manure animal, but the pigs always share as one of the very good source for the manure. And swine manure is used as the fuel sources. Then it is burned for cooking, soil manure, and raw material in the methane gas digesters. Of course, once again, the greenhouse gas production is the separate chapter, and we will deal in sometimes later. Swine manuring soil fertility, a good source of the nitrogen, phosphorus, and also the potassium. It's used as a good medium for growing the biological material, especially algae plants. In a swine manure can be activate fish ponds, especially. So integrated fish and the swine system can always be made, whereas the swine manure can be activate fish ponds for the growth of algae that can be used for the fish nutrition. So this is a nutrition substance for the integration of the farm integration system. Then another thing is, the pigs are always a very good source of immediate money. A swine industry require very small initial investment, and the rate of financial return is very very fast with a very short time. The average time for mating the farrow, especially farrow means a crowd of the pigs, about 115 days, and the time for farrowing to market is usually takes 5 to 6 months because the piglets are born. They need to grow for 5 to 6 months, then they can be easily sold. And generally, the time from breeding to marketing is maximum 9 months. So, gilt farrow at 8 months of the age means though, so the furrow means a process of labor. Then the total labor required for the pig production is relatively very low when compared to the other animals like cattle because it is the work of the children with no school, especially in underdeveloped countries like Ethiopia and certain parts of the northeastern these states of India. So, the biological efficacy of the swine is efficient converters of the concentrate feeds, especially the wastes of the hotels and also the hostels, then schools, and also the garbage, which is from the municipality produced garbages, etc., can be fed to the animals, especially the swines, and they produce, especially the animal offal also means the products of the animal, kitchen leftover, so we throw it out, but this can be used very efficaciously for the piggery feed. And the fuel of restaurants and also the hotels and waste grains are also there. And these tend to convert efficiently into body weight in the form of the flesh, especially. So the these animals have got one of the fastest weight gain, whereas it is 20.25 kg per kg of the feed gain, whereas in case of cattle it is 0.07 kg per kg of the weight gain. So these are one of the best meat producing animals, what you can say, and they are very high prolific breeders. The pigs have the prolific breeding efficiency number one because they farrow about the number of farrowing is usually 7 to 12 piglets, sometimes it may reach up to 14 also. Then the only gestation period is 112 to 120 days, means 4 months, just 4 months, or 112 to 120 days the gestation period. So this high fecundity means this makes swine enterprises to expand in swines very quickly, being replaced in a very short time, as you know very well. Hence, for example, in the Denmark, one pig fecund about 34 piglets, especially in some areas where the pigs are rare for the food purpose. And the farrow and all are survived. The mortality of the piglets is also very very short, especially in such countries where the Denmark, etc. But in India, etc., the fecundity rate is little bit less due to the piglet mortality, etc., a little high when compared. But if we grow them in a proper manner with the proper breeds, etc., then we'll also get very good profit. So the pigs have got very good mothering ability, or it's called as the pigling percentage. The swine have very high pigling percentage, means they take care of the offsprings very well, and at the same time they nurture their piglets without being lost of the baby, especially they feed the milk, etc., to the baby pigs in a better manner when compared to the other domestic animals. Okay, then the another ability of this is short pigling interval, and this is also another advantage. The sows become conceived and birth piglets relatively very short period, since a pig gives birth more than especially 1 year. So usually the piglets born, and they always especially grow very fastly, and very fastly they growing, and the possible sow can produce a piglet every 5 months, means it will come to the estrus, and every 5 months it will give about 10 to 12 piglets. And they have got a very short service period interval. This is a period from farrowing to the next heat period, whereas it is very, very long, especially in case of the buffaloes. The intercalving period, what we say in the cattle, it's very long, whereas it's very, very short in case of these animals, especially the pigs. And the litter size is also high, and these are able to produce a lot of piglets, and average of 16 piglets at a time, depending upon the breed of the pig, etc. They produce especially about 16 piglets at a time. That's a very high fecundity rate is there. So that makes the pig as one of the most found animal for the meat eaters. And losses from abortion, then the conception failure are very, very low when compared to the monococcus animals like the cattle. Especially cattle, the repeat breeding is one of the greatest problem, whereas in case of sows, it is very easily they can conceive and start farrowing as early as possible, because the gestation period is just 120 to 120 days. So we can get the piglets very, very fastly. The meat of the swine is easily for processing and have long shelf life. Long shelf life, especially the pigs have got very easily processing and have got long shelf life with or without being perishable in nature. So this is also another advantage of these animals over the dairy cows. Dairy cows are not perishable, especially. So then another thing is the allo transplantation. So what is a allo transplantation means? You need to remember that it is the transfer of organs among the same species with genetically different number of the same species. So that's called as the allo transplantation. So transplantation of the organ among the same species with genetically different number of member of the same species. So this is also the organs from the pigs can be taken and transplanted to the human also, and also to the other animal. That's called as the allotransplantation. And these has got, as usual, every system has got its own advantages and disadvantages. But the disadvantage of swine production is number one, these have got the simple stomach animal, they cannot digest the grass or the leaves or any fiber, and a direct competition with the human diet, because they are also simple stomach animal, and also the humans are also simple stomach animal. And there is a number of pig increases, they compete for the human for the food grain, whereas the cattle, sheep, goat, pig, sheep, etc., do not compete for the human food is concerned. Then another disadvantage of the piggery production is they cause lot of environmental pollutions, and they tend to be raised close to the human habitat. Then there are a lot of effluent cause pollution very high. That's why the piggery farm, wherever it's necessary, lot of smell and other pollution, industrial pollution is always a great problem to the society is concerned. And pork is not accepted traditionally, especially as a normal food in many societies due to the religion taboo that's there, and that's a very common trend. And you know who are the person who are not consuming the meat for that particular thing. Whereas the scavenging pigs are carriers of the diseases like swine influenza and many more diseases. They can transmit the disease from one this especially to the human, like cholera, swine flu, and intermediate host to a very number of the parasites. So hence, one need to handle the pigs very properly, and also the pig rearing should be done with lot of care, because the zoonotic important diseases are also transmitted through the food, especially. Hence, one need to be careful. Then the large ruminants, we will always talk of the dairy cattle, and we can see that dairy cattle are reared in such a way that head to head system is there, tail to tail system is there, and also the machine milking, etc. Everyone knows this type of the system, and we'll go a little length, especially this thing, especially the dairy production is a production of milk from human consumption, and it's a vital part of the global food system, and it plays a key role in sustainability of the rural areas, especially in particular. So, dairy production has its own breeds like other production, which are mainly for production of the milk, such as the Holstein Friesian, Jersey, Guernsey, Ayrshire, etc. So, varieties of the breeds are present, especially in India. The HF and Jersey are the two animals which are very commonly rare. And apart from this one, very lot of crossbreeding is also present, especially in India is concerned. Then the another system is the crossbreeding. The beef cattle system is also there in certain countries. The cattle are very commonly reared as the beef cattle, whereas in India, most of the time, it is the beef cattle are for buffaloes. But the other countries they use a very specific beef cattle breed for production of the meat, especially from the cattle. So, beef cattle refer to the cattle that are bred and cared with skill of husbandry practices to reproduce and grow as meat animals that are satisfied to the consumer demand, especially the consumer demands. The beef cattle the consumer demands. Then, apart from this one, we can say that especially the beef is one of the most cheapest meat source of the animals. And hence, the beef rearing is also one of the most cheapest source. Hence, one need to rear the beef cattle for the production of the meat. And many countries, it is most cheapest source of the meat produced by the cattle. So the meat from the cattle is called as the beef, and also the buffalo is also called as the beef only. Then beef animals are marketed very stocky body conformation with well-fleshed masculinity, then has got a capacity for rapid growth and fast to finish the fatting process, especially. Whereas the cattle used for beef production historically originated from two categories of the world cattle, especially the Bos Taurus, especially India, and also from the other part of Asian countries, and Bos Indicus from tropical countries like Asia, India, etc. Bos Taurus animals are from the Western countries or the Europe. Then, beef cattle are the ruminants. They consume roughage, concentrates, non-edible to the human beings, and they convert this into a very good muscles. They have four compartments to their stomach as usual. Then you know it very well. When animals swallow grass or other vegetation, the feed goes into the first section of the stomach, they call as the rumen. Then most fiber of the digestion, billions of the microorganisms, then enzymes are present. So it is the feature that allows, especially willingness to digest through cellulose and convert it into the usable food, especially these animals. And the coming to the small animals or the small ruminants, we have got the sheep and goat are very commonly reared in India and many parts of the world. Then they are the multi-purpose animals, providing a family with food, milk, meat, and produce non-edible products like the manure, then skin, then wool or hair. Means all parts of the sheep and goat can be used for investment and sold for immediate cash. And milk is also another commodity. That's the beauty of the sheep and goat, especially the goat milk. contains higher protein and fat and can be processed to different types of the product. And apart from this one, they also yield the skin, and 33% of the goat skin and 29% of the sheep skin produced for export per year. So this is one of the important export importance is also there. Whereas the advantage of the small ruminants over the large ruminants are have got their own advantages and the disadvantages. Once again, as usual with any other husbandry practices. Number one, they are able to adapt to varieties of the environment starting from the cold, semi-arid or the dry zones also. And they are able to resist dehydration also with very less water, especially the goats or the animals. They consume certain leaves of the plants and retain the body water. And high feed conversion efficiency is also there, and they are able to convert less, especially convert less quality feed to the valuable meat products, and also sometimes the meat and also the skin and also the wool sometimes. They can be reared easily by family labor and they do not require much very high labor, etc. And the cleaning up of the shed, etc. is also very simple and they require low initial investment. And purchasing price is also low, whereas the marketing or selling price is high. Hence, more advantageous to get very fast income is the small ruminant husbandry. And the very small area is enough for the housing up of these animals, and also sometimes they have high reproductive rate when compared to the cattle or the large animals or the large ruminants. A twin or multiple births are very common and they have short generation interval and have got the short lambing or the kidding. It's a be giving birth to the smaller ones, and they have got very high genetic potentiality and the wide number of the distribution of the sheep and goats throughout the world. Everywhere the sheep and goat are there, and every country has got its own breed of the sheep and goat, including India and every world, part of the world. And they can sustain in semi-arid, humid rainforest regions and also reflect the presence of high genetic variability. Multiple breeds are present. Very specifically, the wool breeds are there, meat breeds are there. Everything is present in this small creature, especially. Then they require very low cost of the feeding, especially the uh, when compared to the other animals, the disease pattern is also low. Health care and management is also very easy, and they have ability to survive. Often even thrive on low quality feeds, even though they do not have very good nutritious property in certain difficult conditions, and even in the drought situation also they can survive on small amount of the food, and they are multi-purpose animals. See, the products of the cow is simply it is milk, whereas the small ruminants like sheep and goat produce meat, milk, skin, and wool, hair. And also another added advantage is the manure for their owners. So the sheep and goat manure is one of the most fertile thing, and it is sold for very high cost, and it has got very high nitrogen content. Hence, it has got its own demand. So they reduce especially the risks of losses to the owners by being cheaper to replace. So sudden death of certain sheep and goat will not cause much loss to the owners. If a cattle die, then there will be lot of loss to the owner. So that's plus the risk aversion is always there, and there is very low risk of production or less risk to the owner in cases of the death, because the cost of this animal is maximum 10,000 or 15,000 depending upon the body weight, ranging from 10 kgs to the 30 kgs. Hence, suppose they die due to the diseases, etc., predators, etc. So owner will not feel very high losses, just like the cattle or the buffaloes. So this is the advantage of this animal. But another thing is sheep are dominant livestock species on the earth, and the main food resources base includes the wasteland grazing, and also the stable, and sometimes the straw. Whatever the thing you give, they are going to consume. So they are the scavenging or the animals which always, especially these sheep and goat, are the animals which always survive on low quality fiber, and these are reared mainly for the meat, skin, and coarse wool production for the cottage industry. For central highlands are subsidiary product, additional products. So that's why they are called as the poor man's cow. Especially Mahatma Gandhi ji was also telling he was very fond of the goat milk, and it is the poor man's cow. Hence, the goat husbandry is one of the most popular business of the poor man. Then, then pastoral and agro pastoral content is also one of the requirement. Especially they require the especially little or no crop agriculture. Under these conditions, these can be produced. So whereas the urban and semi-urban or peri-urban areas, goat production is always there. This system involves the production of the sheep and goat within at the periphery of the certain cities. So wherever the feed resources are usually less, then household host, then market area waste, then mill leftovers, especially the rice mill leftovers, and also the industrial, the food producing industrial waste, then byproducts and roadside grazing, particularly in peri-urban areas, can also be used for the sheep and goat production system in India. And ranching, especially, is a range based system of the livestock production, similar to the pastoral systems, but with different production parameters, livestock function, and management. So, ranching can be considered as a modern land use system. It's a labor extensive system focusing on the production of marketable commodities from one or two selected type of the especially selected species are grown in the confined vicinity. Hence, this system is also being mainly to farm producing live slaughter animals for the meat. Hence, it is the main purpose of this is to generate the fast income or cash system. And sometimes the making the animals to graze makes the owner to have less input in forms of the artificial feed, especially then this will reduce the cost of production of the animals, then give more profit. Sometimes the sheep, if they go for grazing, etc., they can drink the milk which is in a river or a pond or whatever it may be. Then the cost of all this labor, etc., will be reduced. And lastly, coming to the creatures, we will also deal with the aqua creatures, especially in case of animals. So there are once again the marine animals are there, then also freshwater. So aquaculture is the cultivation of aquatic animals which are present in the water, especially, or aquatic creature is farming fish and adequate plants, which mean that farming above the ocean, and also in case of the rivers for human consumption, especially for the human food consumption. Then aquatic creature has same objectives as agriculture, namely to increase the production of food above level, and that would be produced naturally because especially in the sea, the fish will be there without any single paisa investment. That's also there, and naturally they grow, and the human will catch hold of the fish and use them as one of the most cheapest source of the protein. Then, of course, the importance of the fish farming is providing products of the fish for the human production, and due to amino acid, it has got its own biological value. It's also the source of the vitamin A and also the cod liver oil, etc. They supply as the pharmaceutical inputs and providing some industry material like marine capture fishery such as the fish meal or the flour, which is also used for the poultry meat production, etc. So fishery is also practiced for restocking of the natural water bodies or for the production of ornamental fish. And also this another purpose is immense job potential is present in the fisheries. Then the farmer can often integrate aquaculture into existing farming itself. That's called as the integrated farm management system to improve his income sources and improve water management in the farm. So the fish growth in ponds can be controlled. The fish species raised are the ones farmer the selective breeding etc. can be done. For example, there are a lot of fish are there, tilapia, catfish, carp are the most commonly cultured fishes in the tropical countries. Then, of course, the apiculture, etc., are not under the animal husbandry or the livestock production and management, but it is also an additional income source, and the bee culture is also another source. And beekeeping, advantage of beekeeping is always it is the pollination into the general relative advantage it has got, and the honey is one of the source of the energy etc. Then carbohydrates, then it also the beverage requirements is there, and the beekeeping has got a lot of advantages over other agriculture. It requires the little land. There is no land is required, can run irrespective of age and sex, etc. So, when compared to the husbandry practices, beekeeping do not require any sophisticated technologies, so less capital investment, and the on ecology they have got very high impact, and they always help for forestation, soil and water conservation in terms of they do not require day-to-day work and they do not compete with the agriculture activities of the human beings, etc. And they are the one of the most useful creatures in this earth to the humankind is concerned. So the honey keeping is also honey beekeeping is full or part time, and many people they are rearing the bees, and it is also coming to the animal kingdom, phylum Arthropoda, order Hymenoptera, then the class Insecta, then family Apidae, then genus Apis or Apis mellifera, etc. So let us not go into the deep of this particular thing because we need to require Apis mellifera, etc. They are all the different type of the so this thing. So we are going to stop with today here, and always